all so much for being here. This is our 4th Subscriber Summit and our 2nd in New York City. And I am so excited for today for our awesome speakers. I want to especially welcome our student scholars. You can see them. They're wearing green flags on their badges. To help level the playing field in tech and in journalism, we created a new Student Scholars Program where we've invited students from diverse backgrounds to join our community and receive mentorship. So I highly encourage you to go introduce yourself to these students. We're so excited to have them here. And I want to thank LionTree and Turner and Slow Ventures for helping support that effort. So as you know, we hold our gatherings to address topics of great interest to our subscribers. And I think this year it's pretty obvious why we chose the news. The news has become the news. News institutions are under attack as enemies of the American people. We're going to hear from one of these so-called enemies shortly. Storied brands are on the block or switching owners. And as consumers, we've never thought more about how we consume news, what we should trust, and really, how to inform ourselves in today's society. Here's an interesting chart. This is Google searches for fake news. You can see it's obviously spiked during the election, but it's remained very high since. And I think that really speaks to what's on a lot of our minds as we consume news today. So shortly, we'll hear from our speakers on these issues and more. But first, I wanted to share a few very quick observations. From my perspective, what's the state of the news industry, and where does it need to head? To sum it up, I think the disruption of the last decade is over. And it's time to get serious about building businesses. Consider this. It's been 19 years since Google was founded, 13 since Facebook, and 10 years since the launch of the iPhone. Yet news organizations are still running their strategies as if these are disruptive new technologies that could affect them in unforeseen ways. The result is constant experimenting and second-guessing. Yet things are far more stable than they appear. And the trends have actually pretty much played out in the US. Internet penetration, broadband, social media usage, they're plateauing. I think the news business has to start looking forward. And I believe has to focus on 3 things. Regaining a focus around original reporting, taking back distribution, and being less tech-obsessed and more tech-centric. First, original reporting. So it's very heartening that more publications from Vanity Fair to the New York Times are committing to charging for their content online. But without creating content worth paying for, it won't matter. You can't slap a paywall on articles other people have reported or written and expect that people will pay for them. For that to work, you need must-read original reporting and the best reporters. Yet, as an industry, we've turned our back on talent. Here's a trend in newsroom headcount. It is a downward sloping line. Until we reverse this, we're doomed. And that's why I'm proud that at The Information, we are hiring faster than any of our competitors. The second thing the industry needs to do is regain control of distribution. Publishers are entirely too focused on reaching their customers on other platforms. Why is that problematic? Well, for one reason, it's crowded. Here's an example of how I consume Twitter. Can you spot the articles? It's very, very noisy. And the only way for publications to break through is to not get lost in the first place, and to forge direct relationships with readers through email, the web, text messaging, or whatever comes next. Lastly, I think the news industry needs to be less tech-obsessed and more tech-centric. Bureaus are staffing up on tech reporters, but the coverage isn't as valuable as it could be because reporters and editors are often falling for the hype around new products. But when you have the blinders on, you often miss the bigger story, which I believe is the impact that technology is having across other industries. There's a good parallel to be drawn to the rise of finance over the last several decades and how it was covered. The smart publications, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, didn't just staff up on more reporters to cover Goldman Sachs. They looked for reporters who were fluent in finance and could write about it from the perspective of their industries. And as a result, their coverage flourished. Doing this in tech, of course, is our mission at The Information. And 3 years in, I'm happy to report things are going well. So our subscribers, again, have more than doubled over the past 12 months, driven by must-read editorial you can't get elsewhere. We're also happy to have partnered with a number of leading companies in finance and tech to offer group subscriptions so that entire teams can read the information. And if you're interested, you know how to reach me or anyone at the company, so we'd love to hear from you. And we're spreading out and deepening our coverage, hiring not just reporters in San Francisco, but staffing up on experts in finance and media in New York, and deepening our coverage of Asia technology with our Hong Kong bureau. So those are some of my views about the world. And before we get to the main event, in the grand tradition of tech keynotes, we have one more thing. Since we started The Information, many of you, our subscribers, have often asked us for our opinions on the news that we don't write. And yes, we'll admit there are some stories that The Information does not break. Just a few. So we've often shared our commentary over email, over Slack, and very informally. But I haven't wanted to make a formal product out of it because I haven't felt like we had the breadth and depth to do it in a really good way. But that's changed. And so I'm proud to announce the launch of The Information's briefing at briefing.theinformation.com. Briefing is the day's tech news analyzed by our team at The Information. Yes, we know there are a lot of aggregators out there. Here's how we think briefing is different. First, briefing is commentary, not summary. You can get the facts of a story by reading the story, and we encourage you to. But what you may not know is, what did the story miss? What's really new about this story? What stands out to our team about the story, people who have been covering the industry for a long time? Briefing is also a collaboration of our entire reporting team. While other aggregators sometimes pick their stories based on what's trending on Twitter or what one editor sees pop up in their feed, our staff of 13 full-time reporters is selecting what goes into briefing. We think that that's a big difference in terms of content. And because of that, briefing is also selective. While other aggregators will cram in as many links as possible to try and get you to click on something to sell you an ad, we're going to stick to what we think is important. So here's an example. Last week, Bloomberg had a nice scoop about Apple exploring a new internet satellite project. Other aggregators handled it by just linking to the story and then giving you a long list of other links and tweets that you probably aren't going to read. What we did is Reed Alwargati, one of our reporters who's written excellent stories about hardware companies like Nest and Jawbone and Magic Leap, gave us his take on the story. Now, he thought it was interesting that the team reported into Greg Duffy, an executive that he knew and had written about, and he thinks that also speaks to the plausibility of this thing actually happening. He's skeptical. So again, just one example, and you can check out briefing, many of you are probably, right now at briefing.theinformation.com, and you can also get it as a daily email at the end of the day. We're so excited to see how this evolves, so please do send us your feedback. Now, finally, I want to thank our supporters and VIPs who help put on this event. We're so grateful to RRE, 10-4 Holdings, and Fenwick & West. You guys make this possible, so thank you again. So that's it for me. Thank you one more time to you guys for, I guess, braving this San Francisco-esque weather. And with that, I would like to invite CNN President Jeff Zucker to the stage.